Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Enricher Business Circle, where we will discuss where discipline meets business through the intersection of leadership, discipline, and entrepreneur success. I'm your host, Rickdrika Bennett, and today I am thrilled to welcome Jason Fernandez, a Navy veteran, CrossFit coach, and business leader. Jason, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I genuinely appreciate it.
So, Jason, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do, and your journey?
Loaded question. How far back do you want me to go?
Feel free to share whatever you like.
Yeah. I think I probably always wanted to be an entrepreneur. Originally, I was like when I was growing up, I wanted to be a dentist. And yeah, didn't work out. I did when I was in the Navy, I started going back to night school. I didn't have the prerequisites for dental school
Mhm.
and and then getting all those done, started applying to schools, and then life threw a curveball, ended up going down another path that I had been kind of already working on anyway.
Okay.
But what I found out was, oh, I didn't necessarily want to be just a dentist. I wanted to be a small business owner is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be in control and I wanted to do what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And my reference point for that when I was growing up was I had several friends whose either actually all their dads were dentists. And I was like, oh, that seems like a good deal. Like they kind of get to, work a couple days a week and do that. So, and then, went into the military, did some nonprofit work after I left active duty. But I had started my first business in 2009, and then I left active duty in 2015.
Okay. Fun fact, I considered going into the Navy as a chaplain.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Not a
But
bad gig. I mean, it depends on who you get stationed with, but you could get Navy, you get the Marine Corps. Those will send you to two different places. So,
yeah, it was. I think the part that maybe changed my mind was when they were talking about like preparation process for like stimulation training and being in a helicopter and maybe having to
oh
jump
yeah,
out of it into the water. And I was like, no, this is not for me.
yeah. Yeah, there's all sorts of crazy training depending on obviously what you do, but then you may not even have like a crazy job. But if you're attached to certain units, there's more training that you're gonna have to do. Like I was pretty fortunate. I worked on ships, I worked in the aviation community, and I worked in the special operations community as well. So I did all three of those things as a supply corps officer. So my jobs were always supply chain, finance, moving people, things, or money for the military was my job.
So I know with you spending time in the Navy, and because a lot of my family and my parents, all of them are military,
Okay.
and I know with the military culture is all about strong leadership. And so, could you kind of share like one lesson that you learned while you were in the Navy that kind of guided you today?
Just one. Here's what I would say. What you said is like it's all about strong leadership, and my observation, having worked for some really great leaders and some not great leaders, was that the best leaders were also great followers before that.
Mm,
And I think and you can kind of see this in what I would consider to be like servant leaders, where there's some people who have no problem taking direction and being a team player. And then there's other people who just want to be in charge. And in my experience, there's a difference between being a leader and being in charge.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. Previously, we had a podcast episode on servant leadership in business, and you bringing in that note is just kind of reinforced that podcast that you have to be able to work on both ends of the spectrum when it comes to like true leadership.
Yeah, I found that the more responsibility, accountability, leadership that you are fortunate to maybe have,
Mhm.
the more you find that you really just kind of work for everybody else. You know,
Okay.
you might be the head honcho and make the decisions, but like great leaders really understand that like their fundamental job is to make sure that everybody else has what they need.
Yeah. So how did so in doing learning that lesson, how did that transition to you becoming an entrepreneur? Or did that help leverage you or boost you into entrepreneurship?
Uh, yes and no. I think there's a lot of lessons learned and skill sets and tools that have served me well from the military.
Okay.
But then there are also some that just don't translate well to the, we'll call it the civilian world, right?
Right.
Um, and one of the very harsh realities that you will have to come to grips with is, let's just say I was an officer in the Navy, but let's just say you're a senior enlisted in the Navy or whatever service you're in. Um, when you say things, people do them.
Mhm.
And that is not always the case in the civilian world. Some people might have questions. They might question why we're doing that, or they might not want to do that. And if you're coming from the military, when it is do as I say, because that's how this whole rank structure works, and then moving into the civilian sector where everybody's there voluntarily, like they can quit that job, they can go do something else. They don't have to be there working for you.
Right.
You really understand the value of being able to communicate well, cast a vision, and really get people to buy in to what it is that you're doing. Because as I'm sure you and your listeners know, like business is hard, and you're gonna have to be able to be a leader that can get people to do hard things in some instances for an undetermined amount of time. So, and you can't just be like, do it because I said so. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, you definitely I know, like, as a business owner, I learned that you definitely have to have patience and you definitely have to be flexible because,
Oh man.
as a business owner, if you don't have patience, it's gonna be very hard for you because just because you may do it one way, it may be easier for someone to do the exact same thing and get the exact same results, but a different way. So I had to make sure I was flexible with that because everybody has their own method to get to the result. And I know like we have company SOPs and all of that. And one of my biggest things was I would go through a process and I would do something, but then one of my VAs at one time, she was not like a linear person,
Mhm.
so her process of thinking, she could not understand how I had did the guidelines, and I had to be very flexible to allow her to do her zigzag thinking for her
Yep.
process to be successful. So actually understanding the type of person that you're working with is essential.
That's a great have you done or have you read the book, The Six Types of Working Genius?
No, I need to let me write that down. I
It's
need
a
to read.
great book, and, the so there's everybody has like a type of working genius, and what's really interesting about that is not so much that you understand what your working genius is, that is obviously very important, but
Mhm.
really understanding what other people's working geniuses are, because not just in the workplace, but in life generally, most of us go around judging everybody else for not being us.
Right.
So if I
Mhm.
if I do things a certain way, I have to understand that a lot of my frustration, like with maybe you, is not that you're doing a bad job. It's because I'm judging you for not doing it the exact way that I would do it.
Right.
And for anybody listening, we're not talking about like following the SOP. I'm talking about like behavioral tendencies, which is like, hey, how you communicate, what your sense of urgency is, like how you process information. So really understanding that other people can get to the same place you are, or you want them to be, but they might just do it. They might process it a little bit differently, or they might be good at a certain point in taking that project from A to Z. So a good analogy is flying an airplane. So you would once, if I said, "Hey, we're going to go to Florida," somebody who has discernment might say, "Why are we going to Florida?" Right? Like, is it the right time to go to Florida? Or be like, "Hey, did we check the airplane?" Right? And then somebody else might be like, "Hey, I'm listen, I love landing planes. Like I'm here to land the plane." Right? Look, I don't even care where we're going, but I'll land this thing. Like, let's go. Um, so it's like understanding like who's good in what situations so that you can put together a group of people where you have, what they'll call is like you have 6 green cogs all the way across, meaning like you got somebody who's wonder and invention and discernment and all these things, galvanizing, but knowing where to plug people in to keep things moving, because not everybody has all 6. At most people will have 2 that are green, that would be in their super skill. So, and this has helped me and my partners very much in understanding each other, so that I understand, oh, I'm not mad at him. That's just not the way that I would do it, but he's also not me.
Right.
And I also would understand, like, oh, I might have brought him in too early on this project, or too late, effectively, based on what his super skill is. So it helps prevent a lot of conflict, and really it just helps you to understand other people so that you can communicate more effectively.
Yeah, I think, and I definitely agree with you on that. So, a quick story of what happened with me that had made me have that aha moment was when my company partnered with some colleges, and the interns came the into everything, and I had the SOPs. I was calling myself preparing myself for all of these interns that was coming in over the summer to work,
Mhm,
and they would that some of them just could not follow the process or think linearly, and I had
mhm,
to really go through the process of understanding what they were good at so that I could assign
mhm.
them tasks that only they were good at, which made me midsummer, what I did was I had an aha moment where I created a form where I could evaluate them by what skill set that they had, and then I reassigned everybody, and then after that everything went more smoothly, but
Yeah,
it was chaotic, and I was like, I know I prepared for this moment, but
yeah.
what was wrong? So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that's really cool. I think there's a second part to that that's a little bit more challenging to address, because it's a little bit more introspective.
Mhm.
And so I live in the CrossFit world, so I do all things CrossFit. I own a CrossFit gym. I train CrossFit coaches how to train CrossFit, and I train CrossFit business owners how to run their businesses. And I've worked with thousands of coaches and over 1,000 CrossFit gyms all
Okay.
over the world. And one of the things that we teach coaches when they're working with athletes on the floor is, if I instruct you to do something and you don't do it,
Mhm.
that's my fault as the instructor, because I didn't give it correctly, because everybody learns or processes information differently. So, to make this even simpler, we would say, and there's a cue is a directive of some sort, right? So if I say, hey, you know, tighten up your belly, right? Or push your knees out, that would be a cue. And there's 3 types of cues. There's visual, verbal, and there's tactile cues.
Okay.
And different people learn more effectively with different types of cues. So understanding as a leader how to flip your directions to get to the end state where the person on the receiving end can basically digest what I'm saying as fast as possible. So if I was working with an athlete on the floor and I say, push your knees out, push your knees out, push your knees out, this is now really silly. I've said the same thing 3 times and you've not done anything. A really good coach will automatically pick up on the fact that you didn't react the first time and change how the direction was given and
Okay.
say, hey, push your knees out. And I'd be like, nope. Okay. Then I would say, hey, you look like this. I want you to look like this. And I would show them. If that didn't work, I might give them a tactile cue and use something for them to push their knee out against. But I would do those very quickly,
Okay.
because when giving direction, again, training an athlete to train in fitness or training them to do a process or procedure in your business is no different. It's the same thing, right? But I have to adapt my teaching skill to you, not the other way around. And great teachers are really, really good at this. Great leaders are really good at this. They're able to adapt how they teach things
Mhm.
so that the other person gets it as fast as possible.
Right, and I know, like, with me, because I also do business coaching for
Mhm,
marketing and helping other people to learn different techniques and skills in their marketing, and a lot of them are in the process of trying to find, like, corporate, sponsorships.
mhm,
So, I definitely agree with that because I told them they were doing their pitch deck, and I told them, I said, "Have one in PowerPoint form, but then also create one in video form." Because I
mhm,
said, "You never know which one would grab their attention and send them both." Because some people are where they have to read it, and then some people are more visual. And I learned that through that process. So I definitely agree with you on that, being able to be flexible and positioning yourself the right way. But let's jump into the CrossFit, because you
Okay.
mentioned that you started your business from a podcast. Can you go into
Mhm.
detail about that?
Yeah, this is really funny. So I'm in a program at Harvard Business School called OPM, Owner President Management course, and it's inside of their executive education course. And one of the
Okay.
professors, very renowned professor, Frances Fry, like she's got a couple of TED Talks out there. Really, really interesting lady, very smart. And she said, "Tell me about your business." I said, "Well, it kind of started by accident." And she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, we never intended for it to be a business. We just started a podcast talking about coaching and business ownership. And we did, I don't know how many podcasts before we actually sold anything, but call it hundreds.
Hmm.
And, we're on 800, I think now ish podcasts in 5 years. And I said, we just gave away as much information as we possibly could until people started asking us to help them. And then one day I was like, I think we should help them. I think we should figure out what it is that we're going to sell and figure out how to fulfill on that. So when we started, we did not have a business in mind, and now we have 18 employees, and work with people internationally. So yeah, really, it was just kind of like we just wanted to help people, and we
Hmm.
wanted to share information and experiences, and we did that for a long enough period of time, and at a high enough volume that people came to us and they're like, "I will pay you to help me." At which point I was just like, "I how much are you willing to pay?"
I
You
love.
know? So that yeah, it started by accident because we started the podcast, and then obviously that if you do a podcast, then that can help you start to establish some authority in whatever your space is, assuming you know what you're talking about. And then if you do that, then you can garner a lot of trust, and then selling is easy.
Yeah, I love it. I definitely love just sharing information, resources, and tips. And that's what inspired me to build this podcast, because one of the things that I always hated when I was on my learning journey was clicking, like, you will get this ad promoting like a webinar or something, just so that says that it's going to teach you something, and then when
Mhm.
you click on it, register for it, it was basically clickbait, and they're trying to sell you something in the end. And I had a mentor that taught me that as long as you share the information and share
Mhm.
the resources, don't worry about the sale, because everybody is not going to take the time to actually do it themselves. So there's always going to be a possibility to gain a sale if you're giving them the information and showing that you really know and understand the information.
Most people will still need help with implementation. So if you
Right.
could give away the farm for
Yeah.
free, like, so I listen, in 800 episodes or whatever we're at now, I don't even know how many, like, it is fair to say that we've talked about everything that we teach people in that 800 episodes. So you can go listen to 800 to 1,000 hours of podcasts and get the information in there. Um, you're still gonna have questions, and you're still gonna ask me how to do it.
Right.
So it's like, well, just if you're thinking about, like, how do you prep your to get good clients, is give them all the information so you can forego a lot of the teaching, and that you don't have to teach them basic concepts anymore. They show up, they're ready to learn, they trust you already, and they're going to listen. And this is why I think the value of podcasts is really important. Um, Particularly in the service-based business, where, like, to your point about webinars, like, how many webinars have people gotten on and they're just like, be like, dude, I didn't learn anything in this webinar. This was literally just a 30-minute sales pitch. Now I'm a big fan of webinars. Like,
I am too.
we do webinars. We do
Value.
webinars all the time. We have a webinar running right now. It's literally about how to get your gym over 200 members. But that webinar has tons of value in it, meaning, like, I'm going to show people the math behind how that works, and how lead flow is affected by churn rate, and how all of these things matter when you're trying to grow, and, like, do you actually need more leads or not? So nobody's walking out of that with, like, oh, this guy duped me. And at the end, yeah, there's a pitch, but I'm okay making the pitch because 90% of what you just listened to in there, you've never heard before,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, because that was the biggest thing for me. And I know, like, in the new year, we're going to roll out more webinars around AI education.
Oh,
but
cool.
I want people to actually know the correct way to prompt and build things with AI
Mhm.
versus just randomly following instructions that aren't fully valid and beneficial to them. So I definitely understand. I don't mind giving out the information and the resources behind it.
Well,
So
it's like trust, right? So, like I would imagine that in your business, like we always one of like our like at least my core tenets inside of like my operating principles is like trust is the ultimate currency. Don't waste it.
right.
So, like, don't always gate everything, right? Sometimes just give somebody the answer. Just tell them, "Hey, what's this?" I'm like, 2 plus 2. I'm like, "It's 4. What other questions do you have?" Like, I'm not gonna be like, "Well, it depends on how you add 2 and 2." Like, nobody everybody hates that, and it's garbage, and you just come off as a not serious and not honest person. So just tell them the answer, and better yet, ask them questions, like, get more context on what their question is actually about, because 9 times out of 10, the question that they have is not actually the question that they have. They have another question
Yeah,
behind that that they're
and
trying to get
more
to.
questions
Yeah.
behind.
Yep.
So, and I love the fact that you said trust. So with trust, does that help you with retention in your business? Because I know you had something about retention is the new growth.
Mhm. Yeah,
Did you
the
kinda
I so this one, we've taken a lot of flack for this because in the gym space, everybody is selling leads. Like every gym, guru out there is basically selling to get more clients. And
Okay.
we are the anti leads company. Now, I can get you leads, but we're not gonna do them the way that you think that we're gonna do them. And we've helped many, many gyms grow 100, 200, 300%,
Mhm.
quit their day jobs, all of these things that a gym owner thinks about when they open a gym, like it's gonna be awesome, and it's not, and it's because they don't know what they're doing, right? But retention, particularly in a service-based business, which is what gyms are, right? Like you're in the hospitality business if you run a gym. Like whether you know that or not, you're in the hospitality business. And if you don't understand number one, how just understanding the mental approach that you now take when you think retention first, which is like, I want to keep this client for a very long time, which means they should be happy.
Mhm.
And then also understanding mathematically how that works and how it impacts your need for front end sales, meaning like those two things, they work essentially like inverse of each other, right? The worse your churn is, the higher the need for leads on the front end of the machine.
Okay.
So it's getting people to understand is like, hey, the ultimate arbitrage these days is do a good job and then you will get more clients. All you have to do is ask, have an offer and ask. If you do a good job, have an offer for your people to refer people and
Mhm.
ask them to refer. And one of the like our number one growth strategy is around referrals. And like thousands of gyms have run this play. Like we were trying to figure out the math, but it's something to the tune of like 70 to 75 million dollars of monthly recurring revenue generated for CrossFit gyms with this singular referral play. Because we harp so much on be like, hey, you must offer a good service. If they're happy, they'll stay. If they're happy and they stay, they're happy to refer.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah.
the referral is, like, the ultimate litmus test if you're in a service-based business, like, do other people feel comfortable telling their friends about you? Yes or no?
Mhm. I think I agree with you because the only gym that I've actually went to that I would refer to friends and family was when I was staying in the South and going to LA Fitness because I had an
Okay.
amazing trainer there. Like he was adamant about making sure I was on point and doing what I needed to do every week. So I would meet with him twice a week, but during the rest of it, we'll have a plan that I had to execute myself. And that was the best gym I went to. Then I transitioned to here in Oklahoma, and Tim Gym was not that good. I definitely don't like Planet Fitness. They have this gym called Vasa, but honestly, that gym, it has all of the bells and whistles, but it's not really that great with like
Right.
customer service and things like that. And then they have like all these little hidden things in their contracts. So
Mhm.
that was a bad experience.
Yep.
And now they have one called Crunch Fitness. I've been
Yep.
considering it, but I'm not sure if I even want to try it.
Yeah, so this is one of the things we can speak just gyms. That's my realm, right? Is number one, like understand, like if you own a gym, like understanding what kind of gym you are. So if you're essentially what we would call like a big box gym or a 24-hour access gym, where essentially you're just charging people for access to walk in the door and use the facility. That's it. But if you're more like a boutique gym, um, then you're probably more in the service-based business, which means like you need to have really good trainers. You have people that have high EQ, that are very empathetic, that understand how to train people and deal with people, because fitness for most people is at least somewhat emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If we're gonna be very honest with ourselves, like most people are working through something with exercise, whether it's depression, whether they have, some issues with food, whether they're trying to avoid their life, well, like whatever. Like we all use fitness as a drug, and I think that's totally fine. But just understanding like why are they there? So when
Right.
you're thinking about like understanding what business are you in, you start to approach things a lot differently. But it sounds like the first trainer that you had very much understood that he was in the people business. I'm assuming it
Yeah.
was a he.
I
So,
and yeah, and
yeah.
I think the thing, like the trainers just went down, especially here. I don't know if they've been training for years, but like it was problems with them counseling at the last minute, not showing up on time.
That's
It
just
was
unprofessional.
it was just a lot of chaos. So yeah, I think the worst trainers I've ever had has been here.
Well, I'll give everybody the super secret tip to being good in the fitness industry. 1, be reliable. 2, do a good job. That's it. If you could just do those 2 things, you'll beat most people.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that because I'm debating on how I want to transition in the new year with training because normally I just work out at home now because of my experiences, but I definitely want to start branching back out, going to the gym and things. So that's one of those things I'm gonna have to do some research on it.
Uh, anybody that's gonna be searching for a gym either tomorrow, January 1st, or anytime in the future, a very good kind of litmus test is if you go to a gym, you're looking for a trainer, a very good indicator is going to be how much information they try to find out about you. Meaning
Okay.
like a good trainer is going to want to figure out what it is that you want. A bad trainer is just going to immediately try to sell you something.
Yeah.
So, you're like, hey, I have back pain. I want to fix my back pain. Or if it's they want more lean muscle mass or they want to lose weight, or they're just like, I want to play with my grandkids. Like these are all things that a really good trainer is going to want to figure out, because then what I'm going to do is I'm going to anchor what we do to those outcomes that you're looking for, because training is hard. So I know that I'm going to have to work you through some hard bouts where you're not going to want to train. I'm like, hey, remember when you wanted to do that? Yes. Okay, cool. Let's get back to work and let's make sure that we can actually do that, because there's going to be days, hell, most days you're not going to want to train.
Hmm.
If we're and I grew up, I played Division 1 athletics. I've been training my whole life, and I will tell you, most days you're not going to want to train, but you got to train anyway.
So another question. Let's talk about one more question around CrossFit.
Okay.
So when you describe CrossFit, can you explain to the audience more about what CrossFit is exactly? Because I know some people confuse it with like HIIT workouts, and then some
Mhm.
people confuse it with calisthenic workouts.
Yeah, it's a cult. No, I'm just kidding. No, it is a it is a cult. It's just a good cult. So CrossFit is what is described as like a GPP programming, so generally physically prepared.
Okay.
And that is our shtick inside of CrossFit, which is like this is a training protocol that will get you prepared to do whatever it is that you want to do. And at a good CrossFit gym, they should be focused on getting you out of the gym to do real life stuff, not having you be really good at exercising, right? And yes, there is the sport of fitness in CrossFit that is the 1% of 1% that's like playing in the NFL, right? Most of us just like to casually watch football, okay? So it's really just getting people prepared to do whatever they want. Like my wife and I just went on our 14th wedding anniversary. We went out to Mount Zion and climbed some pretty gnarly climbs out there. We didn't train for that. We've been training for that for 20 years. So there's
Mhm.
no like pre-prep to go on the like, are you gonna do any extra work before you go on this hike?" I'm like, "No, I'm just gonna go for a hike." Like, human beings, like, we should be prepared to do those things at all times. And that's really what we do inside of the CrossFit gym. Now there's varying degrees of that, but I've got clients that have been with me for 17 years, people that are retired, people that are breast cancer survivors, people that have been in the military, moms who have had 3, 4 kids since they've been here. We've got something for everybody, and a good gym is going to make sure that they understand why people are there and what it is that they want, but
Mhm.
then ultimately making sure that they can see the results of that outside of the gym.
Awesome. So I know, and even in that, with owning a CrossFit gym, how is it that you really double like revenue or while focusing on existing clients? Like, what's the strategy behind it? Because I know you mentioned referrals,
Mhm.
but because I know, and you don't chase leads. So outside of that, how do you make sure you're doubling the revenue?
Well, I want to make some clear. We do chase leads, meaning like you understanding the importance of being fast in a sales cycle is 100% everybody should understand that. It's not the primary focus. So when we're talking about doubling the business, again, it just mathematically, the least friction that you're going to have is by making sure that your clients are as happy as humanly possible.
Okay.
So if my clients are very happy, it's highly likely that if I go ask them for a referral, I will get one. That will be the cheapest lead that you will ever get. It will be the highest conversion, and it will be the longest engagement of a new client that you will get of all types of leads, right? So we've got cold leads, that would be an ad. I've got a warm lead that might be somebody who just actually Googled, my gym locally and found me, the meaning there was an active, you know, um, search on their part. But then hot leads, meaning very high likely for conversion, very high likely for long length of engagement, are going to be people that are referred. So
Mhm.
because they already come with trust and social proof of their friend. So when you're looking at growing, number one is like do a great job at whatever it is you do, whether you sell lemonade or you make socks or pizza or whatever, make sure that that is the best lemonade, the best socks, the best pizza, and that people love it. And then make sure that you have a good offer for them behind that. So, number one is make sure people are happy. Everything else, both mathematically and from a sales standpoint, is easier when you have happy clients. Everything. Then from there, it's just some math. Most businesses are underpriced. So, you can look at, easy math would be like, how would you grow a business by 30%? I don't know about you, but I'll take 30% growth any day of the week.
Right.
Well, I can either try to grow my member base by 30%. I can maybe raise my price by 30%, or I can go try to sell something else and do an additional sale of 30% more per ticket in order
Mhm.
to do that. Or I can do 10% of all three of those. So I can grow by 10%, I can increase price by 10%, and I can have something that might be an upsell of about 10%, at which point that is going to equal 30% growth. This is before you talk about referrals on top of that. So when you're looking at growth, we're always looking for sticky growth, meaning like when I get it, I keep it.
Mm.
And in order to do that, you got to do a good job, and you want to go for things that are low risk, high reward, which is why we lean into the referral based growth systems very, very heavily. I also really like it because it's just a really good tell on whether or not you're doing a good job. If somebody's like, no, none of my clients want to refer anybody. And I said, okay, then we have to have the hard conversation about what they're actually telling you, which is like, they don't really love what it is that you do. They're just there because they just kind of like it. Um, but if you have, like at gyms that we work with, if we have a gym, be like, hey, we'll run something like a bring a friend week and 80 people show up for that,
Mhm.
that tells me a lot about customer satisfaction in that gym. A lot. At which point I know everything else for them is going to be easier.
Wow. And I think that's very informative, especially with dividing the 30% into the different categories. And I think a common mistake that most entrepreneurs do take is that they try to scale too fast and in the wrong areas, which end up creating some type of bottleneck.
Yeah. Are you familiar with something called Ansof's matrix?
The NSauce no, I'm not.
It's a basic like BCG matrix. It's a 2x2 matrix. It's essentially just a risk assessment matrix.
Okay.
So yeah, in any 2x2, it's obviously 4 boxes, right?
Mhm.
So the bottom, so typically in a 2x2, the top right is going to be quadrant 1, the top left is 2, bottom left is 3, bottom right is 4. Top right quadrant is research and development. Top left quadrant is going to be new markets. Bottom left quadrant is going to be market penetration, and then bottom right market is going to be new products and services. So
Okay.
first and foremost, almost nobody should go to art research and development. High capital expense to get things off the ground. Very, very long developmental life cycles. So think like big pharma, big tech, things that
Mhm.
have crazy capital expenditures that we might not see for 5 years or more. Basically, everybody lives in quadrant 3 in market penetration, and everybody thinks they have to move to either new markets or new services. Hey, I got to sell to all these other people that don't currently buy my thing, or I got to sell them new stuff. When the reality is like the highest return, lowest risk option is just to do a better job of what you're already doing. Right. So actual market penetration. You're like, well, there's no more customers, here. Everybody's buying my stuff. I'm like, there's 150,000 people in your city. What you mean you can't sell an extra 300 of them?
Mhm.
So when people want to jump out of that quadrant, it's because they either don't know how to sell or they're not very good at fulfillment.
Mm.
And chasing the new thing seems really fun and sexy because as entrepreneurs, we all have like we're just constantly distracted all the time. Like anything new is appealing. So how do we avoid that? Is understanding that there's risk associated with moving to one of those other 2 quadrants. And if you want to go to new markets, you got to be really good at selling. If you want to sell more stuff to your current client base, they better be really happy. Otherwise, it's going to be super high risk. And anytime we direct, any of the gyms that we work with back to like, hey, just do the core thing better, they grow every single time.
Okay.
So,
So, I do something similar, but I more so do it based off of priority and
mhm.
outsourcing, whether it's
Yep.
something that we need to do in-house
Yep.
or not. But I don't do it from that method. So I'm definitely gonna
So
have
that
to
that's
research.
still very important, right? But that discussion that you're talking about comes after making this determination, which is like, what should we be focusing on? Then
Before.
we determine how we go about executing what we should be focusing on first. Like I
And
was just on a call earlier today with some of our more senior gyms that we've been working with for a while.
mhm,
I said, today we're only going to decide 2 things. What's going to be your primary focus for 2026? And then what's the idea that you've been holding on to that you're either currently doing or you're thinking about doing that you're going to kill, that you're not going to do in 2026? And I think as entrepreneurs, one of the best skills that you can develop is saying no.
yeah, and I think I definitely agree with you on that. I saw this thing where with Warren Buffett, he was like, write your goals down there
Yep.
and circle those 3.
Yep.
And with all the rest of them, you put them to the side and you say no to all the
Yeah.
rest, and
That is
then
the bottom 7 is the avoid at all costs list. Yeah. Yep.
so I actually have been doing that. I find those 3 key goals for the year that's on there, and then I divide those goals throughout the year.
I think that's awesome. So the way I like to frame this is like this. So like as a leader, entrepreneur, CEO, like whatever you want to call yourself, your primary goal and what we all have to get really good at is resource allocation.
Mm,
I've got finite resources, whether it be time, team, tools, whatever. I've only got so much of it.
right.
And what we all inevitably end up doing is we're going to do more. Next year, we're going to do more, 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 more. So what I'm constantly doing personally with our team in both my businesses, but also what we're helping gyms owners is like, hey, what are you going to stop doing? Because you can't just continue to do more. At
Mm,
some point, you have to take things off. This is an Elon Musk. He's like, hey, you should be deleting off. There should be things in your business that you just stop doing. Be like, we're not doing that anymore. Why? Because it really doesn't add any value. We've just been doing it because we've been doing it, but it's taking either resources or money or time or whatever from everybody. And I'm like, I want to know what you're going to stop doing or what you're not going to do in 2026. And that will be a much stronger indication of your likelihood of getting what you want out of that year, more so than your goal. Tell me the things that you're not going to do in order to get to that goal, and I'll tell you, you have a much higher likelihood of being accurate on whether you're going to get there or not.
I would definitely agree because I know with us this year previously we were helping like startups, and a lot of the startups that we were working with, they didn't have a business plan or any kind of marketing plan or things like that. So we would go through the process of helping them establish that business plan and then
Yep.
transition to marketing, and we completely cut that out, and it actually helped us to increase. So I definitely will agree with you on that.
So yeah, that's a really good one. So like what you decided to do there was like, hey, there's a certain customer that we're not going to serve.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. Why? Because that customer is super expensive, super time consuming.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, well then I'm not going to serve that customer anymore. Like that somebody else can take that business, but I'm not going to take that business. I want
Yeah.
customers that are easy to work with, that I can charge more money for, and I'll have a better opportunity to give them success. So that's another perfect example. So it could be like, I'm not going to serve this client anymore, or it could just be like, hey, we're not going to do this admin task anymore. Like we do it all the time, and it's just a complete nightmare every single month when we do it, because it's really time consuming and it really adds no value to anybody, either us or the client. I'm like, so just stop doing it.
Yeah, because it was great in the beginning because we were able to go through the whole journey and do like a ladder effect
Mhm.
with the clients, but constantly just doing like the one and done ones with trying to help them develop the business plan and people not having their ideas together, it was just too much energy and time going into that versus us focusing on marketing. So we definitely cut that off, and we been doing some rebranding on what services we'll be offering in the new year.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the sign behind you. It says marketing. It doesn't say business planning, right? It's
Right.
just like, oh, okay. Well, I'm taking you through a whole like vision quest and like getting clear on what you want. What's your 5-year goal? Instead of just being like, who are you? Who do you serve? And what makes you unique? Answer those 3 questions. If you
Mhm.
can't, then come back to me when you do have those 3 questions answered, and I'll probably be able to help you more effectively.
Right. So, Jason, thank you so much for sharing your insights on today. This has been an amazing conversation that I've truly enjoyed. But before we wrap up, are there any tips or things that you would like to say and leave with the listeners?
Oh man, because your audience is primarily entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yeah, I think 2 things. One, ask for help often and much sooner than you think you need it. Like,
Mhm.
as entrepreneurs, we tend to get really wrapped around. I'm like, we're gonna work hard and I'll figure it out. And I'm like, hey, dude, somebody out there has figured that out already and done this. Go ahead and push the fast forward button and just ask for help. Like, don't be a martyr. Like, there's the graveyard of entrepreneurship is filled with people that worked hard that never got anything. So, like, don't be a dummy. Go ask for help. Find somebody that has done what you want already
Mhm.
and be willing to pay them, right? But most of them will help you. And I think we're just really bad at asking for help because we're just a tougher breed of people, because entrepreneurship is hard. So I would say, like, really, really learn to ask for help, because there's all of us have things that we're not good at, and you can get better at most of the aspects of business over time the longer you do it, but that will involve you asking for a lot of help along the way. And everything that I've ever been able to achieve, or any amount of success I've ever been able to have, is because I was asking for help and somebody was kind enough to come in and teach me something that I didn't know.
I definitely agree with that because sometimes we burn ourselves out because of not asking for help. And for those who are in the fitness industry and want to tap in or level up what they're currently doing, how can they contact you?
Yeah, you can just find me on Instagram, Coach J Fern. If you go to besthouroftheirday.com, you can find a ton of resources on there. We work, just strictly with CrossFit gyms. So if you're at a CrossFit gym and you think that gym owner might need some help, you can send them our stuff. But those are the 2 easiest ways to find me. Instagram. It's Instagram handle is just Best Hour of Their Day on Instagram. And that's the podcast on YouTube as well.
Awesome. Thank you again, Jason. And thank you to all of our wonderful listeners for tuning in on today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and write us a review and share this episode to someone who you think it will be very beneficial to. Until next time, stay disciplined and keep growing.